Tēnā koutou katoa, ko Annie tōku ingo, and I work at Education Perfect. We're doing a webinar today for intermediate users, and I have the amazing Ryan here helping me out.
Afternoon, Annie. How you going?
Great.
Fantastic. So yeah, let's get cracked into this one now. As you mentioned, we're looking at the intermediate session. We'd run through a beginner session prior, and we'll quickly recap what that was looking at. But the focus of this session is going to be distinguishing between our Discover and Library. They're similar, but a little bit different. And we're going to be diving into some of the features in the library, mostly around how we can edit content. Obviously, Humanities, one of the advantages is that it is looking at the real world around us. So there's always lots of current examples and resources we want to pull in. The EP platform can support all of that. So we're going to take a look at how that works today. So I'm going to start sharing my screen and we'll jump on in.
Brilliant. Thanks, Ryan. In the beginner webinar, like you said, we covered how to navigate the content. And of course, in front of us is your classes. That's your homepage. And we
have a lot of classes.
Yeah, you do. You click over there to Discover. So Discover is the main area for looking for content. We just filter down to our curriculum, our subject area, and then our year level that we're looking at. And we'll get all the content. Going for stage 4.
Jump into something like Indigenous Australian texts. And the advantages we covered off were things for our Discover tab. It's a lot more aesthetic to browse through, which we'll see compared to our library in a moment. But we also include some other elements like our curriculum outcomes inside of each of our topics, where there are some other supporting resources. You'll also find them often in this space here. And there's lots of other things we can do with the content to organize it in a way that makes sense to us by adding it to our class and building out a course. So that's all some of the quick points here for Discover.
I love that the Discover area has what you need, not everything. So
absolutely.
It's a great place to plan for your year.
Yeah. And for our first-time users for EP or someone who's less familiar with the platform, it's definitely a lot easier to approach. It's a lot more similar to some other kind of platforms, thinking like streaming platforms, etc. As you browse through those, and so the navigation experience makes it a lot easier to digest. Now, if we come over here to our library, it sits just underneath it. And the reason we have 2 of these platforms is Discover is going to be a space that we bring more and more features to inside of EP. But for the meantime, we still have some of our features tied to our library, which we'll jump into now. The
courses you mentioned are tied to the Discover.
Yes, courses tied into Discover. We had a way of managing that in the library, but it was very cumbersome.
It was. So what's the special feature of the library then, Ryan?
So the key aspect around the library is that this is where you can come in to edit content. So everything inside of your EP library, whether it's inside Discover or inside of the library tab, is editable. You can change slides, you can add slides, you can create things from scratch yourself. It's all built in here. Now, similar to our Discover tab, we do navigate around based on subject. We click this drop down here. We can jump around to different subject areas. We can pin those subjects so they stay at the top. Just
I like how you've got all the humanities ready there to go.
That's it. And Chinese for some reason, even though I shouldn't have any languages because I can't speak any of them. So I'm going to drop that one out for future. But yeah, we've got all our humanities there. And you'll see we've got 2 different types of folders. We've got these blue folders and we've got these gray folders. Now, compared to the Discover tab where you could jump around different curriculums, you don't have the ability to do that in the library. We map the resources to you based on where you are. So it's a lot more fixed. We can, of course, add extra curriculums for some of our schools if they're including the International Baccalaureate. We can also include any of the mapped courses content that we have there in place. Or if they so happen to be an international school and are going across borders, we can include some of those other types of curriculums in place there as well. But this school in particular has the Australian curriculum, but also the New South Wales curriculum. It's a demo school, so it's a bit all over the shop. But let's say you're a school in Annie's neck of the woods in New Zealand, It's just going to be the one type of curriculum. Now, the blue folders, again, contain all of our EP lessons, and you go down into a folder structure rather than into those kind of topic areas. But then we have these two separate areas down the bottom here. I'm going to collapse the EP content, which is sitting at the top, and we're just going to look at our My Content and our My Schools content. Now, these folders are incredibly similar. The difference is that what we can see here in the My Content space is only visible to me as a user. Everyone will have their own My Content space, but I can't see Annie's My Content. Only Annie will see what's in there.
That's right.
But if Annie and I were in the same school and we wanted to share resources, we can put them in the My Schools content space, or create a copy and move that copy over to the My Schools content space. And then we'll both be able to see everything that's in here. So if Annie's jumping into the platform on her side of the fence and we're in the same school and she heads to the geography library, she's going to find these same resources here in place.
That's right. So make sure what you put in there is shareable for all.
Yes, yes. So when it comes to editing content, that's why we always recommend start your editing in the My Content space. That way, if you do get halfway through something, someone else can't stumble onto it. Or in the case of My Content, you have a collection of very strange things that maybe don't make any sense to anyone else. So we're going to stick it to our webinar examples one for this at least.
If you're creating an exam, it's a great place to keep that so that nobody else has access to it, can't accidentally use it.
Yeah, spot on, spot on. And actually talking about exams, one of the upsides to creating, which we'll jump into in just a moment, if you are creating exams, one of the things we've found from working with teachers is that creating those questions inside the EP interface means that there's a very consistent look and feel to those questions. So if you are getting different teachers to create content and then wanting to merge that all together, that merging is so much faster than, say, if we've gotten teachers to draft in different types of documents, then we're trying to consolidate and say a Word document before we print out a physical paper. Doing it through the EP platform, a whole lot easier, which we will take a look at.
Absolutely.
So we've got a couple of lessons in here. Neither of these are very pleasant topics. So best to flag that off originally, but it is history and it is important, as with all things in history. So just coming into a lesson here. Now, this is a copy of a lesson from the EP library itself. You can see this is one that has our AI-powered feedback. So we'll look at some of the features that are in there. And we just wanted to show off a couple of pretty cool tools that we think work really nicely in the humanities space. And if you want to talk us through these first one, looking at the annotated text, and I'll try and navigate around, and we can look at this one itself.
Well, yeah, as you can see, the great colours make things stand out. But we do have a great feature, especially for jargon and for terms that students may not be familiar with, and that's the annotated text. And you'll see it here when the text is underlined. You hover over it and highlight the explanation for students, which is absolutely invaluable when they're trying to read something completely new and they don't understand some of the words. So they get
absolutely
straight away.
And then the other form of this that we can bridge into is our annotated questions. Do you want to talk us through these annotated questions? Then we'll jump in and look at this from a student side.
Instead of underlined, these are highlighted, and we can actually ask a question about the highlighted phrase. Only multi-choice, but that's definitely enough, and it saves students having to jump around in their reading to go back to the answer and look for it in the large bulk of writing. They can answer it directly there and get their immediate feedback as well.
The other upside we have for these two is that it's a way of nesting some very similar questions on the same page. If we were to handle these as a closed question in a section like this, we would likely have a slide for each of those types of questions. But by using it as annotated, we're effectively asking them 3 different questions that are related and putting it here on the page. And this can be great as well if you want to lead into an open-ended question, if you're creating your own content. These are a great way of checking to see the student's understanding, but at the same time, also equipping them to know what they can or what they need to know to answer that open-ended question. So one example I've seen from our teachers before is utilizing this in a more senior capacity space where they're going to ask students to respond back to a stimulus material. This is actually in a business or commerce or economics question itself. And within the context of New South Wales, this is where we nestle in some related terms which are meant to indicate to the student to draw parallels to specific areas of their curriculum or study, and to include those solutions or options in their answer to wholly satisfy what the question is asking. So by using the annotations, we can highlight what's important, but also check the student understanding before they progress on to that.
Yeah. It's a great way of scaffolding the lesson and ensuring that they do refer to those important points, those key points, when they do the longer answer.
So we'll jump in and view this as a student, because there's a brand new feature that's come to any of our schools which have our AI Plus element that also ties in nicely to this annotation, helping students to understand. So if we come into one of those slides we were looking at before, I think it is slide number, oh, here we go. I've got one here in place. So highlighting the word do cow and being there as well. But let's say that students are unfamiliar with the term life expectancy. They can actually now highlight this, and our AI feedback tool will also give them a nice brief explanation of what's there.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's a great new tool, and it really helps the students to be able to differentiate and customize that kind of experience for them, so that if they are getting stuck with some of the terms or terminology, whilst the teacher can go in and layer these explanations where they feel necessary, if the student wants to highlight this sort of phrase and it's a phrase that's sort of throwing them off, then that also helps to give them a little bit more explanation. So it's a really powerful addition, brand new to the system, but one we encourage you to check out. So we jump through to this question. You can see what this interface looks like itself. I'm just going to go through without reading these, so forgive me if I get these incorrect, and we'll see what this comes through as. 0 out of 3, an atrocious score, Annie. I'll have to hand my teaching license back in.
You're modeling what it looks like to get something wrong.
And that's okay, because we get another crack at it here. Now, I didn't pay attention to the right answers, so I can't answer these correctly. So I'm going to swiftly close this tab down now. But in order to create those yourself, it's very, very easy. And if you want to ever see how to create something in EP, the easiest way to do it is to actually just start working backwards. So if we come up here, if we wanted to assign this, we can click on the blue button, give us our options that we looked at last time to assign something. But in this instance, we want to actually just edit this. And because I've already added it to my content, that edit option's there. If it was not in my content space, if I was browsing this, say, in the Discover tab or the library, then I'm going to be able to add to my content, and then it will bring me to this page. But here it's jumped me into the lesson, and now I can navigate to where I would like to actually edit. And I've just selected that slide we were looking at there. I can come in to edit this question. Now, Annie, have you done much editing in the platform as well, Annie?
I do love creating and editing. Yeah, it's good fun. And I love to be able to localize items.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have to say that was probably my favorite thing as a teacher, is it sort of satisfies those creative urges in a very practical kind of way. And it was often tough when you're working late at night, trying to get something ready for the week, to not be too particular with how things looked and
yes,
felt.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a great thing to create. So you can do an element of that here inside the platform. When we're looking at creating anything inside the system, it works similar to Canva or any kind of web-based interface creation tools where it's a drag and drop style environment. So this element here is a text box, as is this one. And if we wanted to add another text box, we can just click and drag that over to our Canva space, then type directly in here. Now, of course, we can copy and paste, do all kinds of things you'd expect to be able to do here. And so all of these kinds of media options are going to allow you to drop elements in. And once you start using one of them, it becomes quite common or quite easy to learn the rest. So there is a very common visual language that we use in the system. Some of the things that are going to be more unique are our question types. Now, important thing to point out is that we are in a closed question section. So we only have these closed question options available. If we were in an open-ended question area, we would have a different set of options, and we'll see that shortly when we go and look at another example. Now, in this instance, this one here is our annotated questions. So if I was to click and drop this in, it would give me a similar option. But if I click into the element, you can see what this interface looks like. Now, for example, if we wanted to put a question around bathed.
And that's the key. You must highlight what you want to add a question to and click the plus. And you must always decide what colour you want things, because that's my favourite part, making them colourful.
Apologies, there's quite a lot of noise there. A storm has popped up out of nowhere.
My chair
over my house. It was a beautiful sunny day here, and I was laughing at the app, being like, there's not going to be any rain. And then I came out at one point and went, oh dear, it's going to be a lot of rain. And it seems to have kicked in. So if there's a drop in audio quality on my side, that's why. But to Annie's point, speaking of raindrops, we've got a color drop here. This is how we can pick and choose what color we want this highlight to be. And now that is going to appear there. Now, again, the great thing about that is that you can take elements from a lesson. So if you want to test some understanding or see what students recall, you can always just copy and paste some text from earlier in the lesson, drop it into an annotated question, and you've got a bit of a way of checking that understanding. Absolutely. Alternatively, if you are creating something that is very relevant to your own type of circumstances, copying and pasting that text in gives you a nice quick method of being able to check that student understanding. I think that rounds out for this one. I'm just going to save that one. Annie, do you have another favorite element to add? To
the creation, I do actually love the embedding tool.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Because you can add in everything that you use on the internet already, but you can put it in one place and students can access it all from that one place from EP. What's your favorite?
I would say it's the embed one as well. And I do have a guilty favorite to embed in here. I'm just going to embed it as an information page, but we can also, because we have the embed option, which is here as an information option, we can put that on a closed question or an open-ended question as well. Try my best.
That's the way we give the students the information. If we want to ask questions, we can do that as well.
Apologies if I keep looking to the side. This storm is quite intense. It literally has come out of nowhere. It feels like you're getting 4 meters of rainfall in the space of 5 minutes. So
well,
if I want to drop,
if it's not on fire, it's underwater.
Either or. At least we're not boiling water, so that's a big upside. We're going to take the wins we can get. So similar to dropping in our annotation, to drop in an embed, we just click and drag it over. Now, this might not give you much of an indication of where you get the content, and that's probably where this next steps goes. So the website Our World in Data is one of the fantastic resources I used to use in my teaching, and it's one that thankfully has the ability to be embedded. Now, if you want to determine if an element can be embedded or not, you're looking for the share icon a lot of the time. And if you click on that option, then you'll hopefully see this option to embed. Generally, anything which has an embed code can be dropped into the EP platform. Just give it a try. But this is a fantastic little tool, the Our World in Data page, and I really love being able to take this over to the platform itself. So I just click and copy this bit of code, where if you went to school or know anything about HTML code, it won't look too unfamiliar, but otherwise does look a little bit mysterious. And all I need to do is just copy and paste that in here. Now, it's a little bit condensed here. Oh, good. I think it's hailing. It's a little bit condensed here. So what we're going to do is just change the size, and about 800 by 800 is what I tend to go for. 900 by 900 will also work, but it kind of caps out at that size. And now that will take up this space here on the page. Now, of course, we can put some other elements in and around this. We can drop images, we can add specific text. Of course, text would be good to provide some sort of context to what students are looking at here. But if I save this slide and then preview it, you'll be able to see that all the functionality that we get from the actual website comes through here, including the drop-down box, which allows us to filter down onto particular aspects. There's a time lapse built in here, and we can also move our time lapse to different parts. And this helps us to get a bit of a better understanding of where this data is taking place. But the reason that I love this is it's that interactivity and the ability to mouse over and participate in the data and kind of explore it and step through it. That becomes really valuable there for students. Is this something you've used before, Annie?
Oh, yeah, I absolutely love it. And the preview, question preview, shows you exactly how the students will see it and be able to interact with it.
Yeah, yeah. And something like this is really dynamic because you can drop this tool in and then continuously reuse it. So if you are looking at creating just a subsection inside of your lessons, or if you are creating your own lesson or activity itself, a tool like this gives you all the information you need or all the dynamic you need. Storm is the most intense thing I've seen in a while. It's so distracting.
I'm a bit worried for your safety, Ryan.
There are some enormous gum trees that are sitting right behind me. So if the roof collapses in, it's a gum tree, and I'm sure it'll be fine. But I'm hoping the audio is still coming through. That's my chief problem is the audio and how clear it's coming through. Because I almost want to turn up my headphones, if that makes any sense, to block it out.
I'm hearing you loud and clear, so that's all good.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, so it's a great tool. It's a nice, really versatile one and easy to drop in. And we should also mention that the other key thing when we're creating content is the ability to import from anywhere. So if you want to click on the blue button here of add existing questions, this is when you can go into anything else in the library. Let's say we wanted to come into stage 4 and we thought that this was an important question to be including in here. Maybe we want to be putting in this question, for example. We can, of course, come in and view the question that we're dropping in. It doesn't have to be sight unseen like it is here. But we can import that part in this place. So if you do create something inside the platform and it's sitting inside one lesson, it's very, very easy to import that into another part of the lesson. Or if you have something that's versatile and you want to be using it over and over again, that tool can help you to drop it in wherever is relevant for you.
That's right. Anything to save a bit of time. You copy and paste, drop things in that have already been made.
Big time. So I'm just going to save this one because there's one other thing that we want to run through in the session, and that's the ability to add in some audio recording. Now, typing things in, not always the easiest. It can be a bit time consuming, but students really respond to the teacher voice, and that is something we found has really helped to ground and connect EP lessons with them. But similarly, we want students to also have that voice as well. And did you ever run into the problem where you've asked students a question and their response comes back blank?
Or IDK. Blank, yes. Blank, yes. And students, they have different ways of showing their intelligence, and some cannot write, especially my son, who's heavily dyslexic.
Yeah, spot on. So sometimes there's lots of different reasons when a response comes back blank. And what we want to try and tackle is being able to provide students with different avenues for responding. And sometimes it's easier for them just to verbalize their answer, or they feel a little bit more comfortable verbalizing their answer and identifying why they don't know or discussing why they don't know. So we have some tools that we can drop in to do that. So I'm going to come in and edit this question. We're in a different lesson now looking at World War II. And there's 2 different tools we want to take a look at. The first one is the ability for me to record my voice. So I've got an audio option here. I'm going to drop this into this point. And I've got a few different options here, but in this case, I'm just going to record my voice. So it's nice and quick and easy to get to. Then when I hit the record button, it starts recording the audio coming through from my microphone. If this isn't coming up for you straight away, check your browser, come up to the top left-hand corner or where you've got your web address, and you might need to change the permissions to allow the page to record. But once you give that permission, going forward, it won't be a problem. And any audio we record can be dropped in, and then it sits here nice and neatly on the page. So if we preview this question, you can see it hasn't drastically changed the layout of the page. But if I'm a student who needs some extra support, I can click on the play button. It'll play back whatever I've just recorded and dropped in there. So it has a lot of different uses being able to do that there. Have you used that feature before, Annie?
I love using that feature. The students, I'm sure they love hearing my voice all the time. But yes, I have used that feature. It's good for the slow down snail as well. If there's a lot of, especially a lot of jargon or using some old language, they might want to slow it down.
Yeah, great point. Great point. And having that agency and control to control that messaging coming through and the students being able to stop and start and move around gives them the opportunity to go back over those kind of things. And then if we pair that with our highlight tool, if the students have access to that, it gives them just more avenues for finding the information they need to go forward and answer that question. Now, the other thing that we can do that we want to show off is allowing students to also record their answer. So we don't need to record anything when we're going to pop this in. All we need to do is determine if we want a quick recording or an extended recording. As it says here on screen, a quick recording, we can provide a model answer. An extended recording, we're not going to have a model answer. But in a case like this, where we have an open-ended question answer box, we're already going to have a model answer come through from that, because all the questions that EP creates, we include a model answer and often an explanation as well. So we won't necessarily need to add that one. And this way, the student can kind of tell us what they do know. They can just try and answer it and articulate it. And then you have a bit more of an avenue of determining what their range of knowledge is and how best we can support them going forward. So we're click done.
And if you want to hear a draft of their speech, they have the time there.
Yeah, perfect. Speech drafts are fantastic.
Yeah.
Getting them to just tell you an idea is also a great sort of way. So it can be used in lots of different ways and is often a little bit easier on your side as a teacher as well to review. So now if we come through and view that, we have the option as a student to answer in the text box provided or to record. And on their side of the fence, their recording works exactly the same as the recording tool you were just using before. Click the button, they can see the feedbacks coming through in terms of recording. Click stop, and that's the audio recording that's there. They can always play it back and choose to record again, but it gives them that functionality there in place.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Just don't forget to hit save, because we don't save automatically like Google does. So you need to keep hitting save in case there's an interruption.
Yes. When you are creating your courses, it's good to be saving regularly. We can recover some piece of information, but the whole point is we're saving you a bit of time there. So we want to keep that in place. So that wraps it up, at least in terms of intermediate element. There's 3 key parts that are worth checking out, trying. We've got our annotated questions and our annotated information sections. We've got the embed option, which has a huge amount of flexibility. It's a great way of integrating in other resources that you've maybe used prior into your EP space, so you can keep things nice and consistent. Of course, bringing something into the EP environment means you can take advantage of all the transparency and student recording and reporting that we have built into the system. And then we have those audio options there for providing some differentiation in terms of how you deliver the lessons, but also differentiating how students can respond back to what's there and available.
It's brilliant. Thank you so much, Ryan. Everybody can jump and have a go. I promise you can't destroy the system. Have a go, have a play, and enjoy your being creative again.
Absolutely. And if you have any questions, just reach out to the team here. We are here to help however we can.
Ka kite anō.
Thanks, Annie. We'll see you guys next time.